Hey, how you doing? My name's Andrew Malacy. Welcome to my workshop. Today I'd like to talk to you about my Stanley 750 Sweetheart Chisel set, where I got it, how much I paid for it, and why I chose the set of 4 over the set of 8. So let's take a closer look at what I've got here. In front of us here today, we've got the Stanley 750, reproduction 750 actually, Sweetheart Chisel set that was released a few years ago. And if you've been browsing around the internet looking for a good set of chisels, you'll know that Chris Schwartz wrote about them while they were still in production stage. And you also know that they've been meant to reproduce a really trusted and beloved chisel line, the Stanley 750 Sweetheart. Well, these are socket chisels. They come in a number of different size ranges. They've got 2 different packages, or you can buy them separate chisels. You can get the 4-pack or the 4 chisel set, which I have, or you can get an 8 chisel set. I believe that goes from 1/8 all the way up to 1.25 inches. I got the 4 chisel set for a number of reasons, not the least of which was the price. If you look at the retail price, the 8 chisel set's going to run you in the $200 to $250 range, whereas the 4 chisel set is easily going to find you in the $100 to $150 range. Basically, as a rule, I've seen that the price of the 4 is doubled to get the price of the 8, which makes sense. But before I get into the specifics about the chisels and a review of them and if I like them, etc., I'd like to tell you about why I went with this 4-pack here and how much I paid. Well, as you can see, the 4-pack gives you a 1 inch, a 3/4, a 1/2 inch, and a 1/4 inch. And that's great. I actually had a 6-pack of chisels of a much lesser brand. I believe they were from Harbor Freight. In the end, I realized I never used anything larger than 1 inch. Nevertheless, when I cut my dovetails, and I like to keep the pins kind of small, and so you have these really small holes between the tails that you need to fit a small pin into, I realized a 1/4 inch was not small enough for me, so I decided to go with an 1/8 inch. So what I have here is the original set of 4 with an 1/8 inch on top of that. This guy here runs you a little bit over $20 as a rule, although the retail price is a little bit higher. All told, and you might not believe this, I have maybe $75 to $80 in this set here. So I went to Zoro, Z-O-R-O, which is a subsidiary, I believe, of another company. And their prices to begin with are great. The 8-pack runs you $160 something, and this 4-pack was going to run me about $80. I was going to pull the trigger, and then I just had the idea, I'm going to go to Google and look for some coupons. And wouldn't you know, Zoro tends to always have secret coupons on in their system. I found a 20% off coupon, so I could have taken another $30, $32 off the 8-pack if I wanted. I could have scored the 8-pack for about $133 plus the tax after that. This was, like I said, it was about $80. Take off $16 after 20%, and now I'm down to $64. I added back on a $20 chisel, minus 20% is $16, and I'm back up to $80. All told, again, $80 in this set, which is amazing, especially when you consider that retail on these go about $150, around that range, as I said. If you're thinking about these and you really got your heart set on them, like I had, to be honest, go to Zoro or go to jet.com or even Walmart, where they outsource to other people to fulfill their orders, and just look for coupon codes before you commit to buying. They come in this case here, individually wrapped in plastic with the protector on the edge here, and they all come in this. Now, if you look at the division of the pouches, the widest pouch is on the right for your 1 inch, and then all the way down to your 1/4 inch on the left. Again, I'm a lefty, so I actually order them this way because this is my workflow. And then the other, well, to be honest, the main reason is because since I ordered this 5th chisel, I needed the extra space to fit both of the chisels there. And there we go. They fit perfectly, no problems at all. One thing I want to make you aware of is the sizing. We have a 1 inch chisel here. Spot on 1 inch, perfect. Now let's talk about their condition when they come out of the packaging. Like I said, everything's individually wrapped. It is beautiful. If you've seen other reviews, you know that they have some lacquer and all that stuff on them. I don't remember there being any sort of oil because they lacquer them. They even mentioned the lacquer in their packaging to protect it and all that stuff. Well, I honestly didn't go through all the trouble to remove the lacquer. I just made sure I got it off the back as I was flattening all the backs of the chisels here. Let's use the largest chisel so you can get an idea, the 1 inch, so you can get an idea of what it's like when it comes out of the packaging. As you can see, some of the lacquer is already starting to sort of peel off there. It'll eventually happen. I'm not worried about that. And then I'll be left with just the metal surface. But if you look really close there, can you see the machine marks? That was a little disappointing. The machine marks are actually, I can feel them when I run my thumbnail along. Like I said, I was a little bit disappointed in that. It took me, on the 1 inch, it took me quite a bit of work to get everything down to tolerance on the back. And then I just was, and even then, I didn't go to a super high polish. As you can see, I left some scratches in there. I just wanted to get to work on these suckers. So when they were reasonably flat, I just went ahead and started, I set the bevel on the edge and started honing it. If you're looking for really high quality chisels, you're gonna have to do some settling on these. You're gonna have, unlike the Lie-Nielsen's or whatever, they're not gonna come exactly perfect out of the packaging. So you're gonna trade off. Again, you can see the machine marks. Up the socket here, their machine marks are actually deep enough that they make a zippy sound when you run your fingernail across. I'll see if you can hear it. You hear that? I'm kind of nervous to do this. I'll run this so you can get the idea. You hear that? So that's how deep we're talking on the socket here. It doesn't obviously affect the inside, it just affects the exterior. But it does give a little grip, so I'm not that upset about it. All in all, I'm extremely happy with the $80 I paid for these. Now let's get to the handle. All of them are the same size handle, even though the length of the chisel varies as you increase the width. So when we get all the way down to our eighth and our 1/4, or 1/4 and our 1/8, you can see they're descending or they're getting shorter. And that's fine. But let me tell you, the handle is arguably one of my favorite parts of this. Without a doubt, every time I pick it up, it feels perfect. My hand perfectly envelops. It's like it was made for my hand. You see that? My thumb goes perfectly there, all the way around. I am so happy with the feel of this. Just to give you some perspective, I was working with these type of chisels, the Paul Sellers recommended Aldi chisels. I chopped the end off to make them a little shorter, and they were great. I love the flat spot here and whatnot, but as you can see, there's a lot left over, and I never felt quite right, like I had full control when I was trying to pare or to do really delicate work. Let's compare that with my other 3/4 inch here, and it's just perfect. I love it so much. Perhaps that has to do with the fact that I paid 10 times more for these than I did for this. And maybe that price difference causing me to just, maybe it's a placebo effect that I'm putting more satisfaction onto them that might not actually be there, because I was extremely satisfied nevertheless with these chisels and how they worked out. And the machine marks are a little bit, well, quite similar. A little deeper and a little bit more, a little less uniform looking, I would say. I didn't like the Tang chisel. My 1 inch came open, came loose. I'm gonna have to re-epoxy that. My Aldi chisels are gonna be a little bit of my beaters, while these ones are gonna be my work chisels to do all the joinery. Let's talk about the socket chisels and how they work and if they stick and all that stuff, or if they stay well. As you know, to remove a socket chisel, to separate it, if you want to really address the back or whatever you want to do, you're just gonna give it a little whack. It does loosen it, and I can see the mark specific to the interior of this chisel on there. What I like to do is to put it back in, is I set it flat, then I line up my logos here, put the hearts in the same more or less line, then I go like that, and while I'm on here, I just give it a series of good knocks, and let me show you that bites really, really well. I've not had any trouble with this coming out. I will say though, when you open them up, they're not tight in there, so don't drop it. I always pick them up like this, as much as possible. I do, and I support them. I baby them, to be honest with you. I paid a bunch of money for them. Stanley recommends that if you have any problem getting these things to stay, if they keep falling out on you, what they recommend is taking some really fine grit sandpaper. I think it was 220 grit, taking a little bit of the finish off, putting some lines around it like that so it resists coming out. Let me show, and I haven't had to do that, but that's what they recommend. Let me show you the inside real quick, just to give you an idea of what it's like. That's the interior of the socket there. It's really well made. I don't know much about metalworking or metallurgy. I don't know what the star is there at the bottom, but it's very satisfactory to me. So again, I'm gonna put this thing down. I'm gonna line up the bottoms of my hearts right there. Couple wraps on the table, and we're good to go. A chisel review wouldn't be complete unless we actually cut some wood with it. You might be able to tell that this is my second attempt because the first one I messed up. I filmed on the wrong setting. But here's just a piece of pine that, for starters, we're going to march it backwards like Paul Sellers likes to show for his cutting his mortises. I know this is a bench chisel rather than a mortise chisel. That's okay. A lot of people do this. This is probably what you're going to do too. I don't know if you have the money to buy yourself a proper set of mortise chisels or pig stickers or whatever you want. But this is what you're going to do. You're probably going to have these at hand, and you're going to want to chop a mortise for it instead of going rooting around, making sure you have everything. There you go. I know we're angled here, but I want to keep it in the light for you. I mean, no problem at all with that. Went through it. If there's any problem with the edge, it's my fault rather than the chisels. Let's go across the grain here. Let me get a larger one here. This 1 inch. Let's see how this looks. Doing pretty well. Yeah, it's pretty sharp. I used it the other day, so it's still got a good edge. I haven't sharpened it. I used it the other day. I haven't sharpened it since. Still got a pretty good edge, of course. Haven't used it since the other day when I used it. Just go across. I love doing this. This is so satisfying. I don't know about you, but I just love watching this. It's so satisfying, so wonderful to do that. Let me see if you can, I don't know, can you see there's a little bit of a sheen on there? A little bit. Let's get some harder stuff. Let's try walnut. What do you think? One more time. I'd already done this on the walnut, but let's just go ahead and do it again. Man, I wish you could feel that. It's so nice feeling. Maybe you can see. Can you see that? Wow. Compared to the edge here. Yeah, it does a little bit of reflecting. But look at that guy right there. So smooth. Well, that's that. And let me just sum everything up here. I absolutely love them. I feel like they're extremely special when I'm working with them. I put them down. I pick them up. I use them more delicately. But I'm not afraid to pound on them. They have a really solid handle that for me just works great. Fits in my hand well. Gotta be honest, I love the Sweetheart logo. It just makes me feel like I'm some sort of master craftsman. I can't explain it, but I've got this draw towards Stanley stuff. If you've seen my planes, then yeah, you know, I'm a little bit of a Stanley guy myself. Well, that wraps up my review of my Stanley 750 Sweetheart chisels that I got from Zorro.com, minus a 20%, and I came in right at 80 bucks at the end. I went with the set of 4 because I realized in my daily workflow, I just don't need the extra chisels, although I really wanted them badly. I just have to admit it, I wanted them. But in the end, my pocket and a little bit of sense won out because I just realized there's no use having all these chisels, having to dress them and fix them up if I'm not going to use them. And I saved myself about 50-something bucks in the process, which bought me a DMT Diamond Stone. Please don't forget to like and subscribe, and I'll see you around for the next one.